You guys
Okay.
have fancy
right?
microphones.
Well, we're very
That's
fancy
because we
people.
are podcast people, lady.
Oh my gosh, I have to get a fancy microphone.
No, you don't. It,
You're actually coming through really clear,
you are.
shockingly. For
That's actually just my voice. It's just like people say I have a face for radio. It just happens that way.
a face for radio,
Face for radio.
but you have a face for TV and radio, and a voice for TV and radio,
Yeah.
and a hand for books. I don't know. I can keep going.
Oh my God. Editing this
So
episode is going to be a nightmare.
total nightmare. I can't wait.
I'm Jeannie Bowerman.
And I'm Kira Duggan.
And you are listening to The Story Will Save You. I'm here today with Matt Misitich because we're normally not always here together, but you never know.
Why am I here though? Why am I here and not Kira? Give him that little.
Are we telling the
juicy
world
tidbit
about that yet?
Yeah, a human being is about to crawl out of her body and
Okay,
become
well,
a statistic in the world. Yes.
Sorry if you didn't want the world to know that, Kira, but
Oh,
she's going to have baby number
whatever.
2. So I'm here with Matt because you never know who's going to be here on The Story Will Save You because we don't usually have any idea either.
No.
But today we're talking to Karina Evans.
I'm going to do the intro because Karina, 12 years ago, I think I added a year, 11 years ago, was an intern for Script Pipeline. She was actually the last intern we ever had when I realized that it's the intern industrial
When you realized you
complex
couldn't top me, when you realized you'd never get a better intern.
She was the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
Couldn't top it.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what happened.
Right.
And I haven't spoken to her in many, many years. And yet it feels like yesterday, Karina Evans. But Karina is the author of Grow Up, Talia Wilkins, ! And Audrey Covington Breaks the Rules. No exclamation point. We'll unpack that. She studied English at the University of Delaware. Go Blue Hens. I believe it's the Blue Hens.
You're right.
Where she played.
You know this.
I just know everything.
Mm-hmm.
Can I finish the bio, Jeanne?
Yes.
She was at the University of Delaware before she started a career in the entertainment industry, and now she is a wonderful author and former D1 multi MVP national championship winning women's volleyball player. If I got that right, did I get that right?
Ooh,
You did. You got that right.
She did
Sweet.
win that national championship. Were you in the playoff? Let me preface this why I'm asking about women's volleyball, and then we'll move on because the people who listen to this podcast probably don't care about women's volleyball. But you can see in the background, I have my little Long Beach State towel because I'm a big fan and a booster and an alumni. I'm a booster. I donated $12 3 years ago, and they treat me like royalty there.
They need you.
I am treated like a VIP there. I don't know why, and I don't ask questions. But I'm a season ticket holder now for women's volleyball, and I am a big fan of the sport. So I'm going to loop back and get to that in a second because I want to ask about the parallels between that and entering the creative industry. But give us a little insight on why you started writing middle grade and if that was like the plan to begin with, because your first book, Grow Up, Talia Wilkins, is very much a middle grade.
Yeah, no, it wasn't the plan. I think when I went to the University of Delaware, I think when you're a student athlete, it's more that you're an athlete student. It's more about your athletics, and you kind of piecemeal what you're studying into your schedule. You have a very intense schedule. You wake up very early. You have very late night practices. You have study hall. So I always knew that I was kind of going to do an English major. And then I kind of later figured out that I was going to do a film studies concentration. And what everyone says, obviously, when you enter the entertainment industry, they say, go to Delaware, Delaware. Everyone teaches entertainment. No, they say, go to USC, go to UCLA. Right. So Delaware is not a big entertainment school. I mean, it was great for my major, but I knew that I was always going to come back to California because I am from Santa Barbara, wanted to write. I didn't know if that was going to be in screenplays or in television, or if I wanted to. I didn't know. I knew that I wanted to be in storytelling in some capacity. And then I actually moved to Australia for a year where I played volleyball in Australia, and then kind of started writing more on like the book side of things when I was there. And it took me a long time to find my voice. And I think I was emulating what I was reading rather than kind of coming up in the way that I speak. And then I I tried to think of things that like what was really impactful to me when I was a kid. And it truly was just like, oh, I loved reading a lot of middle grade when I was a kid. And that felt like when I was reading the most. And then I was like, okay, well, what would I have wanted to read when I was in that age? And it was just like a contemporary coming of story. So then that was the first book where I thought, okay, I'm gonna throw out what I know or what I've been reading. Like I think that like when I was growing up, a lot of it, I mean, Twilight was really impactful. I had no choice. I was 15, 14 when that book came out. So I was the target audience for that. So I kept being like, oh, I want to write a YA, I want to write a romance. And then when I finally was like, okay, that's not really my voice. It's more funny. It's more a little bit quicker. That's when I kind of did the contemporary. And it was way too short. I think it was like 30,000 words when I finished, queried it, and then moved forward. And then I've just kind of stayed in that vein a little bit until most recently. But like, yeah, the first couple were middle grade.
So you said most recently, are you doing something else now? Like, is your next project something outside of middle grade?
So I actually just sold a YA graphic novel that'll come out in 2027. So, and it's a volleyball graphic novel. Volleyball graphic novel comes out in 2027 YA. So it's like my first kind of like move into a different age group.
And that is I'm gonna not look it up and see if I remember it. Millie of the Manor?
No, that comes out. Millie of the Manor comes out in September, on September 2nd. And then in 2026, I have another middle grade that comes out called Framed. And then 2027, it's called The You're the One, which is a volleyball, based on volleyball.
Did you ever think about if you're writing if you're writing middle grade and you're hitting that audience, and then these kids love you as an author, they're your fan base. Do they ever recommend, like, if you do YA, then maybe you're taking that same fan base with you as they get older, and then the next thing you know, you're writing erotica for middle grade?
yeah, erotica for middle grade. Can't wait. I actually would love, like, no joke, I would love to write a graphic for like a graphic novel, super graphic. Right. I think that would be so much fun. But I think, so for continuing on the audience, it's different for prose and graphic novels. I think graphic novels typically take 2 to 3 years, sometimes even longer. So by the time that you sell something, that middle grade audience is so small. I mean, some people say that it's 7 to 13, but it's really 8 to 12. So if you sell a book, when they're 8 and then it doesn't come out for 3 years, they may or may not still be interested in it. So yes, when you write a book in prose that is not a graphic novel, you do have tendency to kind of stay in that same age division. But if you're writing something in the same age genre, it's less likely that you will keep that same reader as they grow up. So I guess it would be like a transitional space. So maybe by the time that 2027 rolls around, my first book for middle grade came out in 2022. 5 years later, maybe they would be interested in that and then continue on with the same kind of like path of, oh, we like this author from way back in 2022. Now that I'm 18, perhaps I'll go and read this YA. That'd be great. I would, but I don't think that that's like specifically what the publishers and the editors are kind of trying for when they look at like a career of an author.
I think that's a good point too. If you're writing middle grade and you're developing a fan base, it's not timeless. Like Twilight is YA, but you can still appreciate it as an adult and maybe read that author again. Like, J.K. Rowling, or to pick any number of the top 10 YA people. But like when you're 23, you're not going to go back and read the person who wrote about the girl getting her first period, right?
Yeah.
I did read half that book, by the way, until I got uncomfortable, and I'm like, this isn't for me. Like, I'm not the audience, and I feel like I'm invading someone's
maybe your daughter when she gets a little bit older.
She's 13 now. She's
my gosh.
Yeah, right. So when you said she was 2, I think when I first met you, no, she's like an old woman now. So when you said that middle grade is actually like 8 to 12, I would even argue it's even smaller now. It's 8 to 11. Yeah. By the time, I don't know about boys are a whole other thing. I don't really deal with them. But when girls are like 12, they're already reading, like the Percy Jackson books. And they're reading.
You definitely read up.
You always read up, right? So it's like middle grade to me is it's really the smallest like genre that you can write in, like as far as like the audience, right?
Yeah, it's definitely like the most kind of the smallest slice of age group.
So then what's the...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
it's like, it's a very specific type of vibe to it, because it's like, it's not a chapter book, it's not a picture book. And then it has like themes that aren't in YA. It's far more hopeful. Usually it ends on a positive note. So there are these boundaries of middle grade, a bit more like there's tropes that are specific to that very small slice of what you are writing towards that probably aren't captured in the lower grades or in the upper grades as much.
I know, like, as a parent I had a son and a daughter, and I always had the hardest time at that age finding books for my son. And I really wanted like a series. I wanted to find that series and then have him just read, that kind of thing. I felt like it was much easier to find books aimed towards girls.
Yeah, which is not an uncommon sentiment. I think that there's a lot, especially contemporary, it is so skewed girl. And I think that a lot of when boys are in that like middle grade, which is different than middle school, like middle school don't always align, but the middle grade, I think what librarians and teachers are struggling to find are their contemporary stories that are a bit quieter, that are more like friendship based, more like softer adventure. I think that like boys do get really marketed like the Percy Jackson, the fantasy, and they're being pushed to read up a little bit, whereas girls have a big plethora of like, we're babysitting, we're friendship, we're hanging out with our dogs, we're doing these interpersonal relationships, we're learning how to know our emotions, we're learning how to deal with mental health, I'm learning how to like hang out with my friends, but then we have a friend fight where there are some books that have those types of topics for boys, but they're just not as common. And I think now there's now a push to kind of have more books like that for boys in that age group. But then I think it is, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do boys want to read that? Or is it like, are they gravitating towards that? Or is it just not being marketed towards them because we think that they won't read that? So yeah, it's a very kind
it's not being marketed towards them because we think that they won't. It's just to answer your question. Because it's still, I mean, look.
As the only boy here.
Right. Hey, listen, as a man, no, I mean, it's still kind of a stereotype and a cliche, I guess, but that's like girl stuff, interpersonal relationships, and like hanging out with friends and like being a good friend and navigating teenagehood and going through physical change. That's all like considered girl stuff, and boys are taught still to like we'll just
suppress
deal with it
those
on your own.
things.
Yeah. Which is not good, by the way.
No, it's terrible. And then they get emotionally stunted and they end up getting divorced. Like
or
later in life.
Or
we need to solve the world's problems by changing middle grade for boys.
Middle grade for boys. Yes. There are, I would say that the industry is changing, that there are more of a call for these quieter stories for boys. But I do think that, it is definitely skewed more towards girls. I know librarians look for these books towards boys. And I say, no, that's not what I write. I write for girls.
Right. Would you consider writing a middle grade book geared more toward boys, or no, just because?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, well, what I would always say is like, I would hope that all my books are geared towards all. Like I'm not trying to like segment that way. I would hope that like a boy would find it interesting to, like, if I was a girl growing up, I think it would be really interesting to know about boys' puberty. Like, I feel like that topic is so taboo when you're 8 years old, being like, well, I don't know what they're going through. So I do think that I would kind of like eat that up in a contemporary space. So maybe a boy would be interested in what a girl's going through. But yeah, I mean, like, but is it actually what they're being marketed towards? No. But yeah, I mean, like, I think it would be really great to write something maybe skewed towards a boy, or kind of like more middle down the line of just like an adventure story. I think that like obviously whatever gender your main character plays is huge, because that's the cover, that's your title lead of what is moving forward. So I just think that like kind of like brand quote of like what I've moved forward with, they've always been girls.
Yeah. And like, I don't have the data to support this, so I'm just I might be slightly wrong, but I think I'm right in that we've kind of have a bit of a foot now in the comic book world. And it feels like there's just so many more different genres of comics now than there were when I was a kid, for sure, 20, 30 years ago. Let's say 20 years ago when I was a kid.
I was going to say, what are you talking about?
5 years ago, when I was a mere lad. Uh, there's more genres now, and also like there is something to the whole like ADHD generation of like a 12-year-old boy, and I hate to say this, and people will yell at me, but like they're not likely to sit down and read a whole book, most of them, right? Even girls, I think. My daughter reads all the time, every night, like the Suzanne Collins books, like the Hunger Games stuff, and like she's
Yeah.
into that now. Um, the school forces her to, but also she just likes to read, right? But it's like a lot of people don't like to read. So I think using comics that are more accessible in a way, have been good to like not just gain more of a readership, but to like get across like the stuff the types of stories that you're talking about. Because at the end of the day, it's the content that matters more than even more than the form, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, I would also say that like I don't necessarily believe that people don't like to read. I think that like in an attention culture, they're being rewarded by quick attention of like YouTube, TikTok. Like there's just so many other things that get those dopamine hormones released a lot quicker. And if that's where their friends are, that's what they're showing up in their space and they want to engage in that way, it is a lot harder to slow your brain down and to stick with something if your attention is being constantly bombarded all day with very quick videos or something where you're feeling like an algorithm is kind of driving what you're engaging with. So yeah, I mean, reading is competing in an attention culture, and it is not something that is like flashy and hot and sexy for kids to sit down and be like, well, I'm going to sit for 6 hours and read. So it has to be not only kind of pushed by people that are the gatekeepers and the guardians and saying something like, yes, it is a school-based something, but it also has to be something where they're finding joy in the medium, which yes, would be comics, where that feels like a little bit more accessible. But I would 100% consider graphic novel. Like parents sometimes push back on this. Like they think like, well, it's a graphic novel, so you're not really reading. But reading graphic novels is reading. It does the same thing to your brain. Yet like you are still engaging with content. You're still, as you say, like you're still getting those messages. You're still getting the story. They're quicker. They're like a little bit, it's not like you're reading a full book in hours and hours. Like if you would sit down and read like a Holes, maybe that would take a couple days, where it's a graphic novel, why it would take so much longer for the creators to make. You probably get through it in a couple hours. But you are still consuming content. You are still slowing down your brain. You are still like moving through that story in a way that would still be considered reading. And maybe if you enjoy that, it could be like a gateway to, oh, there's more stories like this. They're a little bit more prose heavy. There's something with their, if you liked this graphic novel, we can go into like a deeper, more sentences graphic novel. So I think in the last couple of years, there is a lot of pushback from parents of thinking like, well, graphic novels aren't reading. You're looking at pictures. But it's not, because it is teaching your brain story structure. It's teaching your brain dialogue structure, moving through the different points, and you are still receiving those messages. And like I think with Millie the Manor that comes out in September, like it is a lot about social anxiety. And so that's not, yes, they could read that in a book. It would be heavier, it would be longer. But if you are struggling with social anxiety, or if there's some message there, you can still get it in like a shorter form way. And you read it. But I also, I think I would also consider like listening to audiobooks reading, because that, controversy around that. But I'm whatever medium kids want to engage with a story, I would say like, just call it reading. Let them have it.
I'd love to know a little bit about your experience, writing middle grade, but then transitioning to writing graphic novel, this time doing that, like how that was for you as a storyteller, telling a story in a completely different way. And also, did you get to work with the artist? Like how close were you with that? Or were you just submitting prose and then the publisher had the artist? Like, what was that experience like?
So I, since my first two were contemporary prose, and then I had kind of had an idea that I submitted to my agent. And I think she was kind of saying, oh, this might actually work. But it all depends on the market, because I think it goes in ebbs and flows. Sometimes publishers really want prose novels from middle grade. Sometimes it's not selling so much, especially after COVID. It was really difficult for editors to pick up these middle grade books that were so dense. Kids were reading. And then after COVID, it felt like a lot of these kids learn to read over Zoom. So maybe they don't have those skills that are as developed. So maybe we give them graphic novels. So it is always an ebb and flow of what publishers want. So at that time, when I was getting ready to do my next project, it felt like the market wasn't as interested in contemporary prose middle grade novels. So we transitioned. It was just I wouldn't say strategy, because that makes it feel a little bit more manipulated than it was. It was just, I had an idea. I took it to my agent. She thought this would actually be a really, really good graphic novel idea. At that time, this is a little untraditional, like working with a writer and an artist. Lots of different ways that can happen. Sometimes the publisher has the artist and you submit the script and then they attach it. For this particular one, I went to my agent, gave her the idea, and she already represented an artist that she felt would be really good for the project. So we did a full package deal and submitted her art, her sample art of the characters, my script, my prose and pitch to the editors and the publishers. But that doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's just the story. Sometimes it's just sample pages. And then if the editors are interested, they can attach their own like artists that they are familiar with and they want to work with for their own like ideas, because it's not really my. So the next question was like, do I work a lot with the artist? Yes. And she's actually now a very good friend. Her name is Andrea Bell. She's extremely talented. So we have 2 books together now. When she was attached onto this project and I saw her art, it really captured, and I felt like, oh yeah, this is exactly kind of my vision on what it was for this project. So when I sent her some sample pages, she did like a full 10-page spread, just kind of thinking like, okay, these are my visions. And then we kind of work separately, but we have like, I guess, little nuggets of say on their own work. So I would work completely for about 6 months. I just did the script by myself. If I had a question, I would ask her like, hey, would this work on the art? How is this? What are you thinking of how this would look? And she would give me a lot of input, especially since that it was my first graphic novel that I was writing a script for. And she had been more in the graphic novel world. But I do the script on my own for about 6 months. I do edits, I do revisions with our editor. And then the script is locked. And then she gets the project. So then like by the time the script is finished and locked, I'm off it. So I have been off this graphic novel project for about 2 years. And then I only get back into it when she's penciled out, she's colored out, and she's now sending her pages back. And if there's things that, hey, now that we see this is paneled out this way and the text is fitting XYZ, maybe there's too much text on this page, could we rework? Or now that we see how it's laid out, is there some changes that we can make? But it's pretty minimal up in our copy edits, because I've already done, the script has already been locked for about 2 years by the time that like we are so far down the line of those finishing stages.
It's like making a movie. Basically,
like making
the writers, when the writer's done, the writer's done. Writer's
done. Yeah. And I might come back in, but like Andrea is so on top of it that it's written out like the script for a graphic novel. Again, it's different for everyone depending, because some people are writer illustrators, so they don't work the same way. Sometimes they just panel out and they don't even write a script. Sometimes they're just doing like concept boards that they would send into the editor. Specifically for me, like I write the graphic novel script almost like a screenplay, but instead of doing like interior, exterior, blah, 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 it just goes panel 1, panel 2. So I'm paneling out how many are on each page. So at the top of the page, I'll be like, there's 5 panels in this one, there's 6 on this one. So I can pick where the chapter flip is, where the beat is. Anytime that someone flip a page, what's the next image they're coming across. And then Andrea is also interpreting what I'm saying in each panel description. Like if I have a reference image, that she can kind of match that. So she's definitely taking her own creative liberties based on my words, but I'm spelling out what every panel will be and how the beats are hitting on the page as we move forward in the text.
That's so wildly different than writing. Great.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I think that like what was nice is that I've written bad screenplays before, but at least I knew the format.
She whispered that as an aside, as though it's a secret.
Like I know the format of a screenplay. I can write so it was very easy for me to just be like, okay, well, I'll just switch this out now to be a panel. And so if you were actually just flipping through it, it looks like a movie script, and she just is interpreting it into a panelist book.
What's your preference now, like between It's like choosing between your children, I'm sure, between graphic novels and prose.
Well, graphic novels for me, I can write a graphic novel pretty fast. So I like that. Like the words on the page are not that much. It's very easy for me to kind of fly through. So if I'm heads down in a graphic novel, I could probably write it for like 3 months. I could probably do this draft.
Concept of first draft, or you gotta
not concept of first draft. Like I'm also not the bottleneck. Like if I was the only person here, concept of first draft, I could write it a lot faster. But there's so much back and forth, like with agents, with publishers, with that. Like there's a lot of happening. So sometimes if I have an idea, sure, the concept, but then it will be away from me for 2 months, which isn't an issue. That's just publishing is very, very slow. And no matter how fast you think it will be, it'll be like a year slower than what you expect. So but if it's my turn and they just give me the green light and they're saying, okay, we just need you to write the script out, I could probably do it in about 3 months. Whereas if I'm writing a prose book, it would take me 6 months, usually. But my preference, whatever pays me more money.
Karina Evans, you heard it here first. She's in it for the money, guys.
I'm in it for the money.
Tons of money to be made in the arts. Don't forget that. You mentioned before, this is the first time I heard a student athlete admit that it's like it was sports first, education second. I'm sure that's not exactly the case. I'm sure they
NCAA approved.
Right. Yeah. But like, did that experience playing, and look, I've never played college sports. I played sports. I played golf for many, many years, and I get it, and I'm involved in the sports world. It's intense during the season and preseason, and like that, that weight that you have to bear, even though like I know people look at that like, well, it's not like college football or it's not this big prestige thing, but it's like for that organization, yes, it is. Right. And so with all that pressure and all that training and all that, the mental game stuff that goes into it, did that help prepare you for working in a creative industry?
Yes, I think, well, what it helped me, I would say the number one thing is taking feedback and criticism. I'm not that precious about anything that you could say about me that is bad. I've heard it before. I've been like, I think that publishing, or at least like book writing, it feels like an individual sport. It is not. And if you can't handle everyone and their mom giving you some feedback and some criticism, and it's not even like bad criticism, it's just like everyone has an opinion. There's lots of stages this had to go through. So I think one thing that going through sports and volleyball and that whole, like, having difficult coaches, getting lots of feedback is, I think I've developed this sense of it is so not personal. You are working towards getting the best product. When someone gives me a note, it has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me as a person. We are all working towards the same goal of getting this as best that it can be. We are all working towards winning, and to do whatever my part is on that side to get it across the finish line. My take this. So when other people come to me and they ask for help or they want feedback or want me to read, I think like the number one thing that I've taken away from sports is when you have a coach and the coach is really, really hard on you and, gives you a lot of feedback, spends a lot of time, and you think like, this coach is so hard on me. That is because they want you to do well, because they see a lot of potential. If I read a book and I did not like it and I saw no way to fix it and I wasn't invested, why would I spend my time to give notes on it if I was like, well, this makes no sense. There's no potential. I don't know how to critique this because I see no end game here. If I'm really invested in something and I want it to do really, really well, I'm going to destroy it in a really, really helpful way. So I think that if I get really tough notes from my editor, or if I'm getting back an edit letter that just feels so deeply overwhelming because there's lots of pages, there's lots of notes, I just have to mentally reframe thinking like, well, they wouldn't have spent this much time on it if they don't feel like they want it to be the best that they can be and actually invest time in it and invest their own energy into it. So I think that like that is probably what I've learned most from
that. Really nails it too. It's like the
Yeah.
tough coaches that you have, they wouldn't care if they didn't see potential there, right? They would actually care less, generally speaking.
They would
cut
care
you from
less.
the team.
Like if I submit a script and they aren't interested, they could say like, yeah, I mean, sure, you can change the dialogue a little bit. Maybe that would make it better. But if an editor is really interested, then they will have their own creative vision, and it's something that you hear a lot when you're querying, when you're going on submission with your agent is, I don't have a vision for how I would edit this, or if they don't, or something like, oh, I've really connected. I can really see how I would edit this. I can really see how to make this like its true potential. So it truly is, if you just see something in it, it's going to get critiqued a lot. And I think that is really difficult for people who probably are more precious about their work, or feeling like, I have a very specific vision in this solo project. And that's great. It works for some people. I think a lot of publishing is like, you have to know that you are the rule and not the exception. And I think a lot of people going into being like, well, I could be the exception. I could write this 300,000 page memoir and everyone's going to love it. And you're like, well, I think you should act like you're the rule rather than the exception. Sports.
And also with sports,
sports.
And also with sports is, when you're doing sports and also carrying a load, a workload at school, you have to really learn time management and figure out how to get it all done. And I think that's another thing in the arts that a lot of people struggle with, because a lot of people have a day job and then they're trying to write on the side and live a life and maybe sleep. And so like time management, like how has that helped you with time management, and what's your normal schedule kind of look like for writing?
Yes, I actually really love this question. I get it a lot when I go and do events, either at schools or libraries, and when people want to come to me, they're like, well, how do you write? Like I used to have a full daytime job. I don't right now. I'm focusing more on my writing, but I did publish 3 books at the time where I did have a full-time job. I think what is really difficult for people is you have to give things up. And it sounds like not everyone, but like when people come to me and they say, well, I want to write. Okay, then the hardest part about that is you have to write. And I think that just sitting down at the computer, making space for it sucks. Like, it's actually not fun. I don't enjoy writing. It's not fun for me. I enjoy the process of having just written. When I've been finished for an hour and I go back and I read what I wrote, I go, oh, that was really, like, I like that I've done that. The actual process of sitting down for an hour and writing sucks. It is not fun. And so it means, what are you giving up? Are you giving up an hour of sleep? Are you giving up going out with your friends for dinner? And I think it is really tempting to be like, always, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll sit down and I'll write tomorrow. But yeah, you have to say, instead of writing, what am I doing with this time? And there's a lot of times where, like, if my friends are going out to dinner or they're having like a nice weekend and there's plans, maybe I could do it. Maybe I can fit it into my schedule, but there's something else down the line now that I have to give up. So it's truly just like, I would work. I would either wake up early, probably unlikely, only happened a couple times during my full-time job, but it would usually be, I would work, I would come home, and then I would write. And that means I'm either giving up my time going to the gym, I'm giving up like making a good dinner, but it's temporary, because then, that's 3 months out of my life, and then I finished, and then you have like a little bit more leeway. I think if it was every single day I was living that schedule, it would be really difficult. And that is why I've quit my full-time job, because I started to have more projects coming down the pipeline. But you just have to make that choice. And I think that is difficult, to make that good decision to do that.
And I also like that, like, to explore that concept of, when do you know that you can quit? And that, because there's probably this transition period where you're at this impasse where you're not quite making enough in the arts yet to make up for this nice little salary with benefits. And, it's like, and then there's going to be this period of time that might be really horrible, where you just don't quite have enough, unless you have a partner who has got some sweet health benefits.
Yeah, right. Well, it's always like, it's always a question. And I think that you are in the arts and you are doing freelancing projects. You never know, even if you've done so many different books, you never know if your next book is going to sell. For me personally, it was definitely a leap of faith of kind of like I had been it was twofold. Like I had been working in entertainment for 10 years. And I just was also ready for a break. I've been working in corporate for a long time. So it was kind of like, I'd love a break. And I always know I can go back. So it's not like I'm closing that chapter. I'm not closing that door. If I need to go and work back a corporate job, it's not something that I'll feel like a failure. It's just something like, oh, well, at this time in my life, I just needed 6 months to a year to kind of focus on my writing.
Yeah.
But I'm also in it, like not everyone can do that. I'm in a privileged position where I have a salary. There's privileges that like I don't think that everyone could make that decision. Yeah. I mean, you're giving up health insurance, you're giving up different, you're giving up like, okay, how am I going to budget these things out? So I think in that regard, it is the exception, not the rule. It's not, I don't think that a lot of people have the opportunity to just feel like, okay, now I'm giving up this 100% paycheck to move forward in this space.
And that's why I think probably having a backlist helps too. But that's why I feel like time management and figuring out managing your expectations for life. I mean, because and I love how you said, like, if I go back to work, it doesn't mean I was a failure at this. Like there's things at different stages of your life, you have different needs. Like even when somebody's trying to be a writer, even if they don't have a job, but they have little children, they've got to juggle all of that and figure out how to find their sanity. I think time management is something artists struggle with so much because it's so easy for us to say, do it tomorrow,
Well, totally. Well, I think like kind of what you were saying, there's just different phases of life. Like it's not, in fact, I'll probably enjoy going back and working in entertainment. It has nothing to do with feeling like, okay, now I'm fully transitioning into the book world. Like, I think it's more just like, oh, at this point where I'm at right now with this book coming out in September, with other deadlines I'm trying to hit, what works best for me right now is moving forward in that space. That could change in a month. Like I could have a crash out and feel like, okay, now I need to go back and get a full-time job. Like it is really just day to day based on my deadlines. So that was the decision, but it's not an easy decision for everyone to make. And I don't think that like, it is very common in any type of the publishing world to do that.
Can you talk a little bit about promoting your books when they come out? Like what kind of hell is that?
Yeah, well, I get that's also different when you have a full-time job because you can't just take time off. You can't take, a whole month to go and do school visits or like, I think that the publisher would really love if you could just dedicate your whole time to going and do that. But honestly, yes, you need to be engaged with your book, but an individual, my contribution to marketing is so small to move the needle. I'm not going to burn myself out in that way to do that. Like, yes, I will engage. Yes, I will do events. I'm going to promote it on my socials, but my Instagram, what 8-year-old is like really going on Instagram? I think that like, that is not in a different way from like YA or from adult. The people on Instagram, it's the gatekeepers, it's the parents that are looking up from them. So it's not like if I post something on my Instagram, it's not like my 7-year-old fam from Cincinnati is going to be like, oh, okay, cool, I'm going to come to this event. They don't have purchasing power and they don't have travel power. So I can only do events with just like a local space. So marketing efforts, it's really on the publisher. It's what they put into it. And I really can't stress about it because if they put a lot of money behind the marketing backing, then I'm great. And if they don't, I'm not going to individually move the needle based on my.
Right. Clearly, though, your first book did well enough to get a second book, and the second one did well enough to, do a graphic novel. So, look, I know many authors, many authors, I'm sure, who have come out with one and that was kind of it because maybe it didn't do well or, for a host of reasons. So you seem to be chugging along anyway.
Yeah. Well, it also depends. I mean, this is getting into like,
let's just say yes, and then we'll end it there.
Yeah. I'm chugging along. There we go.
So popular.
I'm chugging. Yeah.
Hey, we're all about hard truths here, though, Matt. So I would like to hear.
No, go ahead.
It's like there's strategy. So I think like in the nitty gritty of publishing, there's lots of different strategy. And if once you have an agent, they'll kind of discuss it with you. Like earning out looks really good. Publishers like it when authors earn out. That means you're tried and true. It is a lot harder to earn out when you have a big advance. It is a lot easier to earn out if you have a small advance. So if you take a smaller advance and you earn out and then you start getting royalties, you're a lot more attractive to the next publisher. But it means while you're getting smaller payments, you probably didn't get a big upfront payment. So yes, it'll probably set you up for the next book. But if you have one big flashy book and you get a massive advance, that's great. It's great if the publisher puts enough marketing behind that to support your big advance. Otherwise, you've suddenly got this big advance. It's going to take you a lot longer to earn out. And then that publishers look at that number and think, well, they didn't hit what we gave them. It wasn't a success for us. So maybe we don't do a second book. It's all just a numbers game. It's a strategy game. If you want something up front, if you want more royalties on the back end, if you want to like,
do you ever say, no, don't give me so much money?
Never. I would never say that. But I'm sure that like that could be someone's strategy, but I have never been offered a crazy amount where I'm like, no, please don't give me $1 billion. That's crazy.
I would negotiate for less just so I would be perceived as a success, but that's more my personal.
I feel the same way.
It is like this film industry too. If you're an indie filmmaker and they give you a $10 million budget and the movie flops, then you're screwed. But if it was a $500,000 budget, it's going to be easier to be perceived as a success. Because perception is reality at times.
And I'd also add that like even when you earn out, the publisher, before the author earns out, the publisher's already making money on you, so that like they are doing. By the time that you are getting your royalties back, they're already making the cents off the dollar that have paid back your advance. So it's a success before that time for them in their eyes.
Sure. I have a final question.
Yeah.
What was the most definitive, besides Twilight, what was the most definitive middle grade / YA book for you growing up in the 2010s or whenever you grew up?
Yeah, different. Well, besides Twilight, if Twilight's out, most definitive. I mean, Holes was huge.
Holes, sure.
Holes was
that was the first script I ever read because it was in development and Shia LaBeouf was going to be in it, and I was interning for his manager. Fun fact for you about my own personal history, even though this is about you. Go ahead.
This is like intern day.
Intern day.
I know. Yeah.
Holes, Series of Unfortunate Events.
Sure.
And then probably specifically for my first book, Talia Wilkins, I think it would be like a Judy Blume. Are you there? It's me, Margaret. But I mean, Twilight. I can't really get past Twilight.
Right.
Or Hunger.
We all have our. Yeah.
So it's interesting that your daughter is now 12 years later going back into the next version of that. But
you know what? I won't say there's no big recent series, but they're all like going back to Harry Potter. They're going back to, I won't say Twilight so much, but like Percy Jackson or, some of these series that are, I guess for when I was younger, when Jeannie was younger, it was like Lord of the Rings. They just kept going back to like Lord of the Rings or Dune or, these big sort of like masterpiece kind of epic series. Jeannie, you were born by the time Lord of the Rings came out, right? I had to slip one in.
Well, and also too, with like, Kias always has to tease me about my age. But also too, like in my generation, we weren't like huge readers. Like,
really?
I mean, in the morning, my parents would kick us out of the house, and it was like, don't come back all day. Like, I don't want to see
go to the library.
Go do something, go play, go do whatever. Like we were in the woods. And then they'd have those commercials that would come on at the end of the day. It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? And that was legit. Like that was literally reminding the parents, oh, you let your kids out this morning. Do you know if they come back? Like we were just like feral animals.
Yeah, that wasn't my generation necessarily. We're Koreans. We're like West Coast,
we're like we could
the sun set early.
We were like the original survivalists.
Yeah. No, we had like an iced coffee at home. Right.
Yeah.
I was an only child, so I did a lot of reading.
Oh,
I'm an only child too. Yeah.
High fives.
Oh, hey.
I
actually for half a second expected the hand to come through the screen as a high five. No high fives. Well, look, Karina Evans, graphic novel, Millie of the Manor, releasing on September 2nd. Did I get it right?
Yeah, that's
right. I already ordered 4 copies. Going to send one to Jeanne and some of the other staff. I know.
Sweet.
4 sales already. You might earn out here.
This is going to be it for me.
After that $1 million advance.
Billion.
I'm sorry, billion.
Billion. Get those expectations up there.
Yeah. And the next one coming out in 2026. What month in 2026?
I don't know yet.
TBD 2026.
TBD.
Perfect.
We'll update the show notes when we know.
27 doubles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
Don't forget.
Hey, it's all right here.
Good.
The mind of a 22-year-old. Thank you for joining us. This has been lovely. Jeanne, some closing thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I love that you danced around different mediums and with the screenwriting space and even if you say it was bad, I'll have to trust you.
Matt read it. It was bad.
But I bet if you wrote a script now, it would be bad because you have a whole other skill set now. But I love that because we're always trying to tell people to try different mediums and just see if you like it. And the fact that you did the middle grade and the graphic novel, I think is so cool. And I'm curious to see what you do next, and whatever you do next wouldn't even surprise me if you did something totally crazy off the wall.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
We'll see. Write the next Hamilton.
Yeah, that I do rap. No, I don't.
Oh my God.
About that. I don't do that.
If you saw Karina right now, you would immediately think
that's a rapper. That is a rapper.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if you did really rap, I would say rap us out.
No, and that won't be happening. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
The Story Will Save You is a Pipeline Artists original podcast. Like, subscribe, and follow us on social media at Pipeline Artists and at Book Pipeline. For more information, visit pipelineartist.com and bookpipeline.com, where we have contests for unpublished manuscripts as well as for published books that would make great adaptations for either film or television. Learn more about our efforts to help writers find publishing success on bookpipeline.com. Until next time, let the story save you.